On April 2nd, Trump announced some new tariffs on the world.
Tariffs.
In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world.
This is an interesting ongoing situation, so I thought I'd talk about how it'll affect a figure collector like me if you'll be hit with tariffs and how I predict the tariff situation will change. Currently, I have about $3,000 in pre-orders lined up for the months of May and June, so I may or may not be absolutely cooked. Trump has recently announced tariffs on the entire world. This includes a 24% tariff on Japan, upping China's tariff to 145%, and most importantly, repealing the de minimis exemption for packages from China and Hong Kong starting May 2nd. If you aren't aware, most anime figures are actually made in China. Like this Xuan figure that I'm unboxing right now. Oh, what's that? Apex is a Chinese company, so that's a bad example. Let's take a look at a few other popular figures and brands. Good Smile Company's Reading Signer Kurisu, made in China. Hatsune Miku Digital Stars 2021 by Hobby Stock, made in China. Kaito Futaba LED version by Amakuni, also made in China. And for good measure, let's throw in Frame, known for their 1/4 scale figures. Hatsune Miku Bunny version, also made in China. So why does it matter if a Japanese company is shipping figures from Japan? Tariffs apply to the manufacturing company and not the shipping country. So even if you're ordering a figure off a Japanese IP from a Japanese company shipping from Japan, theoretically, you'd be subjected to the 145% tariff if that figure was made in China. Ideally, there'd be some balance between figure manufacturers that produce in China and Japan. Unfortunately, most figures are just made in China. I believe Good Smile does make some Nendroids and figures in Japan, but there's no real way to check the manufacturing country when making pre-orders right now, so it's really still a gamble. Right now, buying figures goes two ways. Either you buy from a Japanese company where you're the one importing a figure from Japan and you may or may not be hit with tariffs, or you can buy from an American company that has already imported the figures and will be shipping from their store somewhere in America, no tariffs. However, since that storefront may need to pay tariffs to import the figures themselves, you might see prices go up. Now, none of this information is exactly new, so for my fellow degenerates that can't live without their plastic waifus, let's dive a bit deeper. HS Tariff Code 9503 is a heading for real toys, dolls, and reduced scale figures and models, which anime figures fall under. Initially, there was some speculation that this heading would save anime figures as it wasn't included in the China tariffs document. Unfortunately, it won't, at least as far as I'm aware. I don't want to be the doomer, but when the 10% tariffs were announced, new HTS or Harmonized Tariff Schedule codes were pulled out of thin air. Specifically, code 9903-0120, which basically says everything from China is subject to 10%. Then was up to 20% in code 24, before the last boss appeared, and all of America was crushed under code 9903-0163, an additional 125% to every product from China, Hong Kong, and Macau. So yeah, we're pretty cooked. There are a few exceptions though, like packages shipped before a certain date won't be hit with tariffs, and code 9903-0121, 22, and 23, which are pretty much a few exceptions. Unfortunately, toys, reduced scale figures, and the such don't appear on these lists. As of this moment, there have been collectors subjected to fees. This user on MFC reported that they had to pay $169 to receive a package valued at $824 from DHL. It seems like most private shipping companies like DHL, FedEx, and UPS have tried and collected fees from buyers. However, it seems like not every collector is affected, as another MFC user got by DHL fine with no fees for a shipment valued at $200, most likely thanks to de minimis, a rule where shipments under $800 are tax-free. But the de minimis exemption for China does end on May 2nd, so there will be an expensive difference if your package is made in China versus Japan. This MFC thread has a mostly comprehensive list of customs declarations, but to keep it to big stores, AmiAmi marks Japan, and on the other hand, Good Smile Global and HobbyLink Japan seems to mark wherever the manufacturing company was. Recently, Good Smile has gotten a bad rep though, since they've pissed off a lot of collectors. Last year they had a data breach with a terrible follow-up, they doubled down on their no cancellation policies via email, and jacked up prices, so not the best look. They also announced a short time frame to cancel specific orders though, so they may be backpedaling a bit. Tom, aka Otaku Mode, leaves the form blank right now, but has suggested that they'll mark manufacturing country. By the way, this isn't advice or a guarantee that packages will be labeled this way, it's just a report on what other users have experienced. As for US companies, it really varies. Some have locked in pre-orders while others say fees may apply. There does seem to be a general free cancellation option for most stores though, so just go check whoever you use. Now, to double back to de minimis, there is a lot of uncertainty in the information provided. A UPS announcement from their official YouTube channel seems to claim that even a single item manufactured in China will flag your entire package as ineligible for de minimis, even if everything else is from Japan or something. However, whether or not this applies to all shipping companies and the USPS I don't know. It's also been noted that different packages can count as a single shipment if they're in the same time period. So if you ship a $400 package and a $500 package in a short time frame, it may flag both packages as over the de minimis threshold, so keep that in mind. It also brings into question if there's a higher possibility for customs destroying, checking your package to see if it's made in China and potentially breaking your stuff in the process, as there's a lot of horror stories on broken figures because of customs. But it's also possible they'll be too overwhelmed to check, so again, it's just more speculation. And as a final side note, not everything is made in China. Most goods from Japan, aka books, music, Blu-rays, and video games, are usually made domestically, including all Gunpla. So for the time being, the China tariffs shouldn't affect any of that. Originally, I planned to unbox a few more things during this video, but nothing else has been delivered. Most likely because of the tariff situation, so here's some footage of me playing gacha games instead. Finally, let's talk about how I think this tariff war will play out, without talking politics. Ultimately, I think the tariffs are in large part a negotiation tactic. Although it hurts American consumers and businesses, it also equally, if not cause greater damages to overseas businesses that heavily rely on exports to America. This is because a lot of countries have been taking advantage of US consumerism, since we are statistically the de facto biggest spenders in the world. However, many US companies have also taken advantage of cheap overseas labor and have existing infrastructure set up that way. So all in all, it's really a lose-lose situation if the tariffs are kept. This is probably why Trump announced a pause on all additional tariffs to negotiate, like the 24% on Japan, and stated on April 22nd that tariffs on China will fall significantly after a deal is struck, but not to zero. So without a doubt in my mind, tariffs will eventually fall, but I don't think to 0%, and this includes Japan. And this is because of the part that I don't believe is negotiation, aka the setup to basic tariffs on all imports, possibly even killing de minimis entirely, as there is speculation on its removal in the future. Basically creating something similar to VAT in the EU and import taxes elsewhere. I hate politics, so I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole, but looking at the current administration from a high level, most actions do seem consistent in revolving around saving and raising government money. This can be seen in cutting government jobs, deleting penny production, social security investigation, collecting on student loans, selling citizenship for millions of dollars, and finally, these import tariffs. So I believe the high tariffs are being used to negotiate, while the real tariffs will probably be along the lines of 10% across the board, which was initially announced to non-retaliatory countries. Now, why the administration is so fixated on raising money is anyone's guess, but I believe the two likely possibilities are the US debt and cutting taxes for taxpayers.
Reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it'll all happen very quickly.
Both talking points of Trump's campaign. Whether or not he follows through with those though, I don't know. I'd also like to point out SoftBank's $100 billion investment in building US AI projects, as they also made a $50 billion investment during Trump's presidency in 2016. During the recent investment, Tokyo officials actually praised the SoftBank CEO's actions, as they viewed it as a goodwill gesture over concerns that Trump may impose blanket tariff hikes. Japan's trade and industry minister even stated that the steady expansion of investments would strengthen Japanese and US economic ties. Ironically though, those tariffs did come to pass. Recent news suggests that Japan isn't in a rush to negotiate with the US, and the 24% tariff is on pause for 90 days. Right now, Japan has a trade deficit overall, but a trade surplus with the US, so there may or may not be room for negotiations. It just really depends on who makes concessions. So to summarize what isn't affected by tariffs or fees, packages not from or made in China under $800, not having multiple packages over $800 in a short period of time, EMS, air, or surface mail, and specific items in store, which are on a case-by-case basis. If you want more information, the tariffs thread on MFC is very active and informative, so go check that out. Oh yeah, and the Xuan figure that I unboxed during the video was marked code 9503 and not affected by tariffs, but it was under $800 and arrived before May 2nd, so there's that. Am I cooked with my pre-orders for May and June? Who knows? I'll try and keep you up to date. Peace.